fall armyworms may pose a threat to food security as the country tries to tackle the effects of the coronavirus pandemic on food. Now, the Ministry of Food and Agriculture has been urging farmers across the country to adopt preventive spraying to ward off potential invasion by the fall armyworms. Earlier this month, the ministry sent a release to caution farmers about a resurgence of the destructive maize pests. Director of Plant Protection and Regulatory Services, Dr. Felicia Ansamprofi, wants farmers to take education on the worms more seriously. She spoke on a visit to persons in the food value chain in the Ashanti region. Aboagye-Wiafe has more in the following report.
Preventive spraying is adopted to protect maize farms against fall armyworms and other pests. Dr. Ansa Amprofi warns farmers whose farms share boundaries with infested plantations risk losing their crops if they fail to heed advice.
You have a period of about 3 months for the maize to mature before harvesting. So during that period, when you do the first spray, you don't have to rest. You continue monitoring. After 2 weeks, you go back and see if it's still there. If the infestation is still there, you have to spray again. We have a maximum of about 3 sprayings for a season. So if you're lucky and the infestation is not high, you could spray once and that'll be okay for you.
In 2017, Ghana experienced her first armyworm invasion, mainly of maize farms. The Agric Ministry has since mounted surveillance for early detection of resurgence. Dr. Ansa Amprofi says some farmers have refused to make use of extension services even when they have evidence of worm on their farms. She says the ministry will continue to educate them on the issue.
What you are saying is that the government have put in place measures by buying the chemicals that they can use to control the fall armyworm. And these they can get access to when they see the AEAs. So small-scale farmers are supposed to contact the agric officers or the agric offices to ensure that they get their pesticides to spray. But the commercial farmers may have to just follow on our advice and get the right pesticides to buy.
Meanwhile, Sector Minister Dr. Oswefie Akutu says government is working to deal with the pests to avert threats to food security.
So we are dealing with over 3 million farmers. We have only about 4,000 extension officers. You can't cover everybody. So you come into situations where farmers do not know what to do. Although the instructions are on the radio, we're doing all we can. But generally, of course, fall armyworm is under control.
For JoyNews, Aboagye-Wiafe reporting.
Well, joining me for more on this is my colleague Joseph Opoku-Gakpo, who is on the Agric desk. Great to have you, Joseph, this afternoon. What are you hearing about the resurgence of the armyworms? Can you hear me, Joseph?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Right, so tell me more about what you're hearing about the resurgence of the armyworms.
So from what we're gathering, you know, the rainy season is just about beginning. Here in Accra, we saw some very heavy downpour over the weekend. In other places, the week that just passed had seen quite some rains, and even 2 weeks before. Now, what we know for certain is that these pests have become endemic to a certain extent, and so they are not going anywhere. Every year at the start of the farming season, we can expect them to resurge. And so it's about putting in place the necessary measures in order to avoid widespread destruction. But with the onset of the rains in a lot of the farming areas in the Bono-Ahafo region, the Ashanti region, parts of the Western region, the Volta region, you know, the southern belt generally, we are seeing the rains fall and farmers are beginning to prepare for the planting season and doing their planting. So just as that is happening, then we are seeing the pests emerge. And chances are that even in the northern part of the country where we are expecting the rains to fall because they have a single season sometime in July thereabout, when the rain begins falling there and farmers begin planting, then we can expect the pests to resurge in some of those areas. So pretty very much more than 8 regions of the country where we've seen rains already, and the first rains fall, the indication is that the pests are emerging in those specific areas.
What has been done in the past to tackle this threat, and where are we lacking?
Mainly, it's about education for farmers to really properly detect these pests. And even beyond that, beyond detection, then what happens next? There are questions about the sort of chemicals that can really deal with it. Fall armyworm is an invasive, pest that affects more than 80 different crops. They chew on virtually every part of the crop, and their consumption of food is very high. That's what makes it extraordinary and more devastating. And because they begin consuming crops from beneath the leaves and all, then they are more difficult to control. So you need more potent chemicals in order to deal with them. A lot of the regular chemicals that are used to deal with ordinary pests do not work. So what has worked in the past has been a situation where governments have deliberately brought in chemicals, stocked them strategically in the district offices, so that as and when a resurgence is seen, then the real experts, the extension agents, can then be called in to help deal with it. That's why we need to do more if we can keep the pest under control.
I was going to ask if spraying was enough, as we had it being said in the story played before we spoke. Is that enough to deal with the threat?
So a long-term approach could be deliberately cultivating and coming up with seed varieties that are resistant. A lot of research has been ongoing into that in places like Kenya, where the BT crops, which have embedded in them the Bacillus thuringiensis, which is a fungi that has inherent protective cover against these pests. Some of these research are ongoing in other parts of the country. That is about time Ghana also took seriously and deliberately made the conscious effort to develop varieties that are resistant, because once they emerge and you're fighting them with pesticides, then you are impacting negatively on the environment as well, and that also has to be looked at.
Help our audience appreciate what impact it could have on food security, even as we deal with the coronavirus pandemic. We don't know when it will end. How would this impact on food security? What economic implications could there be?
The destruction that we saw was an infection of more than 117,000 hectares of farm fields. And we recall farmers complaining about how they were losing money and how a lot of them had run into debt the following year. And at a point in time, governments had claimed that we were so self-sufficient in maize production that we were not importing anymore. But beyond those infestations, we saw a situation where the Poultry Farmers Association confirmed that they had to import some maize into the country. So the impact could be devastating, particularly on cereals like maize, hence the need to take it more seriously. And the effect, as I indicated, more than 80 different crop varieties, meaning that virtually all the foods that we consume every day, even if we choose to find alternatives to cereals, could actually be negatively impacted.
All right, Joseph Opoku-Gapo, head of our Greek desk, thank you very much indeed for your perspective.